The First Descendant is a new free-to-play MMO. These games can either take off and be a huge success or fall off just a few months later. Let's take a look at its visuals, gameplay, sound, and story. Plus, a few tips for those that aren't used to this type of game. That way you can decide if you want to play or pass. When it comes to the look of a game, several things can either make it look good or bad. I find that the First Descendant is a mix of both. Technically, it's impressive. It uses Unreal Engine 5 and has some nice looking environments and some great looking character models. But when you're using Unreal Engine 5, there are going to be setbacks, and one of the big ones is, of course, the upscaling technique. Hair looks very cross-hatched and noisy, and so does the grass detail at a distance. It doesn't help when you combine this upscaling technique with screen space ambient occlusion and screen space reflections. All these things can look good on their own. When you combine them with TAA, it creates a noisy environment, and you get those nice little ghosting trails every time you turn the camera too fast. Even with some of these problems, it doesn't stop the game from being stunning. The environments are gorgeous, even though some of the textures are pretty rough and low resolution in some areas. The game has several different worlds, and they are all visually distinct from each other. Albion is your home base. It's a high-tech facility on the side of a mountain. Then you have Kingston, which is the ruins of an old city that kind of looks like the London map in Destiny 2. The game has a massive desert area and a region that reminds me of the Grand Canyon. One section looks almost like it's Scotland and Iceland combined, with moss everywhere and rivers flowing through it. My favorite areas in the game, though, are the more alien segments. Running through these massive hallways, dodging lasers, offers some pretty fun platforming, especially if the people you are playing with are really bad at it. And the alien structures have this white, almost dragon scale-like appearance that makes them stand out against the rugged terrain. The First Descendant is a very big game, and it's much bigger than I think what most people were expecting. If you had played games like this before, they usually don't start out at this size. They usually start small and then grow over time. This game is big from the get-go. Each area of the world is broken up into sections, and each section has 3 to 4 missions to complete. And at the end of each area, there's something similar to a strike in Destiny to finish off that section. Now, like earlier, I said the character models look good, and they do. Some of them have cloth physics, hair physics, while others like Ajax are all metal. Each character in the game is visually distinct. Once you see them, you know who they are. Now, these characters aren't just different in their appearance, they actually have character. Bunny is completely different from Viessa and the other characters, not just in looks, but in attitude. Bunny is a hyperactive, crazy character, while Lepic is a general soldier with high power and a stern approach. Ajax, on the other hand, is a stoic shield bearer, somewhat similar to Master Chief, in my opinion. These are just a few of the characters though, and combined with the ultimate version, there are 19 in total to collect. There are some performance issues. In the 30 FPS mode, I have not experienced any problems or drops. In the performance mode though, you will get some. And at times, when something is far away from the screen, it moves at a lower frame rate, which looks weird, but it's something you kinda get used to over time, considering how many games it's in now. On Xbox, I have noticed that textures can take a bit of time to load in, but I haven't noticed this as much on PS5. Here's where things get interesting with the performance options. Whatever you do, do not use frame generation on console. It stutters constantly on PS5 and Series X. Maybe they'll eventually fix it, but for now, it's unusable. The 120Hz mode offers a balanced gameplay option if you have VRR, locking it around to 40 FPS, and running pretty good from my experience. Now, I suggest playing it in performance mode. It seems to be the best option unless 30 FPS doesn't bother you. The game also has a ray tracing mode, but I find it kind of pointless for this type of game. The First Descendant is a third-person action shooter with superpowers, similar to Warframe. Viessa uses ice, Bunny wields lightning, and Lepic controls fire. Each character has specific elements, unique abilities, and stats. Now, as to where things get a bit complicated for newer players, that is how the mod system works. In this game and Warframe, you have capacity points, and you can only equip so many mods for each character. However, in this game, you have a sub-slot that when it's upgraded increases your capacity points. If you're wondering what mods to equip for each character, I suggest just start playing the game with whichever character you choose, learning how their abilities are and best used. For example, with Lepic, I prefer a fast cooldown, higher health, and wide range and duration. With his third power, it creates an area of effect that pulls everything into the middle, allowing you to throw a grenade and hit all the enemies at once. Now, when it comes to your big moves, especially during boss battles, you need to wait until they show you their balls, and sometimes they summon in a group of enemies that attack you as well, that protect them from damage. You need to save your big moves for these moments. Let's say you choose VS. She can freeze and slow down enemies, so a fast cooldown and MP reduction are important. It lets you lock the enemies in a slowed state and unload your weapons onto them. Mods are crucial in the late stages of the game. Having the right ones upgraded makes a big difference. HP up is essential for every character. Defense up helps tank damage, especially for the squishier characters like Bunny. So I do think there is a bit of a problem with the game with aiming on controller. When aiming down sights, it's way too sensitive. And if you have the auto aim left at default, you cannot target weak points. Here's what I recommend. With the aim sensitivity settings, not your normal sensitivity, I recommend anything from 15 to 25 on both. And with the aim assist, I would say 15 to 25 and play around in those numbers to find what feels best for you. Trust me, it will help a lot on this game. And there is one other thing that I hope y'all share it out, post it on Twitter, whatever you need to do to maybe get the attention of the developers. The button to pick up items, it needs to be changed to square on PlayStation and X on Xbox. Because right now it's set to the same thing as jumping. And every time I go to pick something up, I end up jumping instead of picking up the item. I'm pretty sure you've experienced this too, because I've seen players trying to pick something up and just jumping. So we need this to get fixed. In the First Descendant, you have to farm gear and mods, which apply to both characters and weapons. For sniper rifles, I would say focus on damage and stability. For submachine guns, I suggest a balance between accuracy and spray and pray. That way, while hip firing, you can hit as many enemies as you want and do pretty good damage. And when aiming down sights, you can still hit those weak points. You can add modifiers to the weapon like electricity or toxic effects. Now, the legendary weapons have reactors that boost their effectiveness. These reactors are another item in the game that you can equip and enhance your skill power. There are also external components that boost certain stats. Some of these components are part of set pieces that provide you with even higher boost when you have a full set. When you get done with a void intercept mission, watch carefully to avoid deleting set components. I did find one sound design issue, particularly in Albion with the character Lepic. His footsteps are much louder than everything else, which needs fixing. However, in the open world areas, the sound of gunfire is incredible. It is easy to pinpoint, making it very easy for you to find a group of players already in a mission and you can go and help them out. The story is interesting, but not necessary to enjoy the game. If you just like to farm and become overpowered, this is the game for you. You become a descendant and are granted powers to protect the continent of Ingress from the invading forces known as the Vulgans. You learn about the Prime Hands, the Iron Hearts, and more on a very long journey. There are records and echoes to find that help show the history of the world and its descendants. Bunny even has her own set of exclusive missions that explain her backstory. I do expect more missions like this to come in the future for other characters. But with any game like this, the real story comes from playing with your friends and having a good time clearing out missions and fighting off hordes of enemies. That's what makes games like this good. And crossplay and cross progression are big pluses, allowing you to sit down and play with your friends on any platform that they're on. Being a free-to-play game, we need to discuss the game's monetization practices. They're not great, but they're not terrible either. Some items, like those needed to upgrade your character's capacity, are too expensive. Ultimate skins are also pricey. However, you can find parts by farming and build those characters and the upgrade materials without spending anything. And this applies to most items in the game except for certain event skins. The game has a battle pass that costs $10. You can get skins and colors to paint your descendant, provided that you have the extra skin to equip. The downside is that these colors are limited to the specific suit you use them on, but once you use them, you can change them out at any time. Despite some high costs, most items in the game can be earned without spending any money. Now, as for the battle pass itself, it's based on completing challenges with daily, weekly, and seasonal tasks. The seasonal challenges will give you a lot of XP towards it, jumping nearly 20 levels, which is great. The First Descendant offers a visually impressive and mechanically rich experience, with a few performance issues and a bit of a pricey monetization system for some things. If you're a seasoned MMO player or a newcomer, the First Descendant has a lot to offer. So, will you play or pass? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want, leave a like and subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later.